So is it likely that the Liberal government will walk away from cornerstone environmental policies? And would there be a political consequence to that, even if public opinion might back that as a policy? Let's bring in our front bench to talk about that. With me tonight, former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant. He's now the CEO of Space Canada. Next to him here in studio, former Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt. She's the Vice Chair and Managing Director of Global Investment Banking at CIBC. And rounding us out, of course, CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair. Hi, everybody. Benzie is away on a nice vacation. He'll be back, I think, next week. Lisa, I'll start with you. Yeah. I think the Prime Minister has been pretty clear. Like, I can't find any minister saying, yes, we're going to keep everything that Trudeau did when it comes to climate. They seem to be framing it now in this climate competitiveness thing that they're going to announce in a few weeks. Do you think there's a political consequence to that for them?
No, I don't. But what the government has to do is they have to paint a much clearer picture of the danger that this country is in right now from an economic point of view. I don't think it's actually resonating what we're facing in terms of the United States going after our auto sector, for example, our steel sector, aluminum. Right now we're thinking about back to school. We're thinking about pocketbook issues. But the reality is that we have a big existential problem coming our way. I think that the politicians get it. But I also think that the Liberal government is trying to figure out how to still adhere to some policy around climate and not seem like they're throwing it all out, when the reality is that everyone else in the world is really pushing it to the side, because it's all hands on deck trying to scramble and get whatever we can based upon what Donald Trump is doing to the South.
A good example of that, Brian, is the announcement on Friday about EVs, right? We're pausing this year, and then we're going to do a 60-day review. Like, every person in the industry, for example, who has been asking for this mandate to be scrapped right now has spent months conveying to the federal government, here is why this is going to hurt us so much. What is the impetus, you think, behind the government? I mean, I imagine it's that there are a lot of people, even within their own caucus and their own cabinet, who care a lot about those policies that they were actually there for implementing.
So I think there's a few things happening at the same time, and it's I think great display with Minister Jolie's interview with you, in the sense that we have a country that is seized by the trade conflict with the U.S. I think this government is laser focused on that. So that's item number one. Item number two, we have ministers that have a new prime minister, and I'm not sure they know exactly what the policy is yet, to be pretty simple about it. So I think she was like, I know that 2050 stands. I'm not sure where 2030, 2035 is. Ask the environment minister, because I'm just not sure. And I think third, there's some discipline now. At the start of this government, we saw a few ministers go out and take some liberties, maybe talking about policies that were a little bit more skewed towards the previous prime minister. And my guess is that they were told, look, stop doing that. There's a new prime minister with a new agenda. So I think those are three things culminated in that interview. I think Canadians want, a lot of Canadians are incredibly worried about the economy. They're worried about the trade conflict. I certainly hope that we're going to still have robust plans and actions to fight climate change. But politically speaking, there's definitely a government that is seized with the U.S. trade conflict.
I'd be very curious to see, Tom, and you might know better than me, like how robust those policies are going to be. Because on Friday, again, the Prime Minister, the one singular climate policy he would say that will remain is the industrial price on carbon. Everything else, he seemed to intimate, would be kind of embroiled in this climate competitiveness announcement coming forward. But again, like, even the framing of it, right? You're not just being straight and saying, look, our economy's in a crisis. I've got to choose that over this at this moment in time, even if I don't want to. You're saying, like, it will be climate competitive. It's very like, you know, Trudeau vibe.
Right, but at the same time, remember what we heard from Trudeau for so many years, which is you do not put the fight against climate change as a competing element against the economy. You have to be able to do both at the same time. I think that Brian's right. I think that a lot of Canadians are deeply concerned about what the economy is going to look like in the future. But I know, for having worked on this for decades now, that Canadians are also deeply concerned about what kind of planet we're going to leave to our children and grandchildren. And I think that Mr. Trudeau mastered the art of being a liberal on this stuff. He was in the middle of the road, would flash left, turn right. He knew exactly how to play the game. He would posture. He would bring forward proposals, but if there was a little bit of, pushback in the Maritimes about heating oil, he'd just remove the consumer carbon tax. Here, what we have is something much more clumsy, because for Melanie Joly to be saying, well, we don't want this to be about ideology, as if Canada's signature on the Paris Accord is a question of ideology. as if, lowering greenhouse gas emissions by going after, in particular, the transportation sector is a matter of ideology. No, it's a matter of reality. And if we don't reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, global warming, climate change are going to continue to play havoc. What else do you need other than the wildfires that we went through across Canada again this summer to know that this isn't something that should be abandoned? And what's interesting to me is that if you read what he's written and you look at his history on this, Mark Carney understands this better than almost any other leader in the Western world. So that's why it's so disappointing to me to see them playing this game of just saying, oh yeah, maybe 2050. Hey, Vashi, I attended my first conference of the party under what was then Kyoto almost 25 years ago. And already then Canada was playing with the dates. We would be, well, it would be this date, but it would be in relationship to what we were producing at that date. It was always a game pushing it forward, pushing it forward. For Mélanie Joly to even with a straight face talk about 2050, oh yeah, 2050 should be fine. I think that anybody who cares about the environment, anybody who cares about sustainable development should be calling them out on this, because it's a real mistake that they're making long term, because it's not just the economy we have to worry about long term, it's the environment and it's climate change.
I guess I wonder, though, like among those, Lisa, people who are that concerned, like who is sitting around cabinet, who is sitting around caucus, because I think, and I don't know it, I know it only via public opinion polling, climate change has receded in the lineup of things people care about. Not to say that they don't, or all the things that Tom didn't say isn't true, but that's why I sort of framed the question at the beginning of the show, like, they may have public backing for moving away from being, as stringent as we were perceived to be previously, but like within their own caucus, there are a lot of people who care a lot about that.
Yeah, I think you've put your finger on it. It's about the stringency that the Liberal caucus approached this in the past. It was never enough just to be middle of the road. They had to be the leader. So it was like banning LNG, making sure there was no business case for it on the East Coast. It was bringing in mandates that were stronger than anywhere in the world. So they wanted to lead on all of these matters, but we had an economy that could support it at the time. And now we don't have that security blanket of an economy where growth is actually tracked with how the United States is doing. And we're scrambling to figure out what we're going to do. So there's going to have to be a resetting, I would say, of what the expectations are in the environment. Tom Mulcair is right. Mark Carney's not walking away from the environment. I can't imagine he's going to do that. But I don't think any political party is, as a matter of fact. I think it's how you approach it, how you get to where you want to be, and the reduction of GHG emissions is still going to be incredibly important. And I would expect, in the Major Projects Office, a pretty big part of the investment that Canada's going to make.
How do they convey that to people, Brian, who did vote for them thinking that they would be more stringent?
I don't have the answer, but I think what they think is to start saying climate competitive, right?
Someone explain to me what that is first.
Well, it's foreshadowing for some big announcement, I'm assuming.
The few weeks, the coming weeks.
And there'll be some type of definition. But my guess is to try to frame all of the type of decisions that they're going to make to protect the environment and fight climate change under the thing that most Canadians are seized with, the U.S. trade conflict, and basically say this is going to help us with our economy. And as Tom was mentioning, the sort of Trudeau era argument of they have to go hand in hand and they're not in competition. That said, there's no question that they don't seem to be as strong on that line. I mean, Joly was certainly making the argument. We have real big economic challenges ahead of us, so we got to focus on that. So implicitly saying we'll get to the environment, we'll get to climate change, we'll figure out those targets. 2050 still stands, but we got to really sort of be seized with the moment here with regard to the conflict. So she is kind of stepping away from that narrative. It'll be interesting to see how Carney defines this climate competitiveness.
Can't wait.
We all can't wait. He all has us interested, at least.
That's true.